bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. Ready? This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50-plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
The countdown is on to Eagles and Cowboys, a Saturday edition, a Christmas Eve edition. Yeah, that's what we'll be talking about for the next 2 hours here on Birds 365. John McMullen, Jody McDonald, a.k.a. your Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. J-Mac, Merry Xmas, Happy Holidays.
Happy Festivus, if you celebrate.
Is today Festivus?
Yeah.
It's the day before the day before?
Day before the day before, so time to get the poll out and air some grievances. I hope you didn't make the trip. By the way,
with a 13
not
with
with the Eagles,
right?
but for Jody Mack specifically, I'm hoping you didn't make the trip up the turnpike last night.
No, and I will absolutely admit and reveal that my wife made that call. She just shook her head and said, "This is foolish. Why are you going? You're going to sit in the rain up and down the turnpike. What are you, crazy? Blah, blah, blah." It wasn't as bad a storm as it was supposed to be, but it was just continuous all night long, and it got colder. This is some weird weather we're going through, John. It's supposed to dip down and get
cold,
freezing.
Then it got hot, then it's going to get really cold. It's crazy. And obviously the product you would have seen would not have made it worth the drive either. So I'm glad you stayed in Mansion McDonald. And
yes, we did.
The trip up the turnpike.
My daughter did come over, and she came back from Philly, and she watched the game with me last night in the man cave. And yeah, it was just a bad one. I've been trying to tell Jet fans, it's funny because I've got a show on FAN tonight. I haven't done a show on the Fan in 2 months, but sure enough, I'm on tonight. I tried to talk him off Zach Wilson the day they picked him in the NFL draft. The kid's just not an NFL player. He doesn't have, and Eagle fans should and could relate to this. Jalen Hurts has the mindset and the toughness to be a star quarterback in the National Football League. Zach Wilson does not. So when you start to take Jalen Hurts for granted, and that might be the case heading into this game against the Cowboys with the backup quarterback getting the official nod tomorrow. Don't. That there is more to being a star quarterback in the NFL than just the ability with a howitzer to throw it off your arm. Because I remember you telling me you got a closer up
platform, baby. Platform.
Off platform, on the run. He's got no. Here were your words. That Zach Wilson's got some arm talent.
Well, he does.
You need more than arm talent to be a winning quarterback in the net. It isn't all about arm talent.
I agree.
And he's proven that.
It's about that at every position. I say it all the time with TJ Edwards. I mean, he's not in the Pro Bowl because of his pedigree. And a quarterback, it's even worse because guys get pushed up the board. He does have tremendous arm talent, but it takes so much more to play the position. I love how everybody's running away, though, from Zach Wilson. not you specifically.
You know,
But
that's
you
not
know,
the case.
no, I'm not talking about you, but I'm talking about draft people and saying, Joe Douglas. Oh, there's no way I mean, we could do the research. It's on the internet. There are people who talked up Zach Wilson tremendously, and obviously it hasn't worked out. I joked, evidently Robert Saleh wrote, "We haven't seen the last of him." In his press conference.
I saw his press conference.
And I joked it's never good policy to threaten your own fan base. But I will say this too, because I say the same thing about Justin Fields, who's got enormous talent in Chicago. Boy, I think it's really bad decision. If you're going to draft a young quarterback, and I don't care what the name is, you got to have a coaching staff in place to maximize the efficiency of a young quarterback. And that means offensive guys. And I'm the first to say defensive guys get, they're behind the 8 ball to begin with, because most teams just want an offensive guy.
Right.
And there's no guarantee that Nathaniel Hackett's a perfect example in Denver, just a disaster. There's no guarantee it's going to be a success, and that's with a veteran quarterback. But if you're drafting a young quarterback, you can't have a head coach that isn't a good offensive mind. You can't go that direction. Same thing with Matt Eberflus in Chicago. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but
doesn't make any sense.
Here's my evaluation of the Jets. It's all about the quarterback. The kid can't play. He's not good enough. He doesn't have the talent. He doesn't have the heart. It's not about the coaching staff. It's not about offense or defense and where your overall philosophy is and where you put your emphasis. It's about him. Sometimes it's that simple. We all want to go one more step and dig a little deeper and do a deeper dive. No, the kid just can't play. Plain and simple. Don't look at Robert Saleh and say, well, you have to have an offensive mind. No. The kid can't play. Plain and simple. It's easy for me, but that's just me. We all have our way.
Well, we turn, because we are Birds 365. We turn it back to Jalen Hurts. Look, Jalen deserves all the credit in the world for his development. But, Nick Sirianni has helped dramatically, and Shane Steichen has helped dramatically, and Brian Johnson have helped dramatically. And by the way, Jalen Hurts will be the first one to tell you that. I mean, I can't sit and look at Zach Wilson and say he doesn't have the arm talent to play in the NFL. He doesn't have a bunch of the other stuff. He doesn't have the work ethic, evidently. He doesn't have the desire, evidently. And all of that is part of it. And I'm not there every day, but that's just what I hear. And that's how it comes across. I think coaching's got a lot to, and I talk about it all the time with Andy Reid, and I go all the way back to '99 and Donovan McNabb and that draft, and I say, man, what if Tim Couch was with Andy Reid, and Donovan McNabb had to go to Cleveland? What if Achilles Smith got with Andy Reid? And I know for a fact, because Joe Banner said the Eagles loved Achilles Smith. And they think he would have been great under Andy Reid. And what if it was Achilles in Philadelphia with Andy Reid and Donovan had it? Where the hell did he get drafted? I don't even remember.
Achilles Smith?
Yeah, Cincinnati.
Next pick.
No, but what team did he go to? I forget.
Achilles was Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, yeah.
Yeah, Bengals.
If Donovan had to go to Cincinnati and Achilles Smith went here, how would that? I think things change dramatically. I think coaching, especially with young quarterbacks who have some flaws, I think it's really, really big. I think I say it all the time, Jody. Player development is real. Player development is real. I don't like Justin Fields' chances right now. Now, he's a better example because he's got enormous talent. I don't like his chances in the situation he's in.
I think coaching. They made a decision, conscious decision, to not compete this year. They traded their 3 best defensive players. They said we're not going to win this year. So he's had to overcome that all year. That was a conscious decision the organization made, not their coaching staff. And yeah, Mike White goes in and moves the football and looks good. So it's not the Jets coaching staff either. It's the kid. He can't play. Plain and simple. Your analysis of overall football can be dead on. I'm just telling you it's not applicable to the New York Jets. It's not because their offensive philosophy, their offensive coaching, they can't get Zach Wilson to where he needs to be. No, Zach Wilson can't get Zach Wilson where he needs to be. But enough about the Jets. The decision came down yesterday. Gardner Minshew is getting the start. I ask you, why the timing? They played it a specific way. Do you really believe that Jalen got worse, or that they were hiding information to a point and decide now is the time to let everyone know that Gardner's going to get the start? Did Gardner, in their mind, need 2 full days of knowing himself he's going to be the starter? Why did the timing work out that yesterday was the day Sirianni said?
Yeah, I don't know. I expected him to take it right up to game time. I expected the competitive advantage nonsense. No, everybody knew Jalen wasn't going to play. Same thing. We were talking about Dallas Goedert, and I never got to mention it on the show. The Eagles did have more time, and for whatever reason, they decided to activate him at the start of the week. It is a little bit of a shift, a little bit away from competitive advantage. Maybe I don't know. That's been the way they've done things. You know, I said from talking to some people down there this week, I originally thought, you know, if this were a big game, if this were, you know, winning you're in, if this were a playoff game, I think Jalen Hurts would have, you know, pushed through and tried to play the game. Now, after talking to some people down there, I don't think that's the case. I don't think he would have played even in a playoff game. I just don't think he's ready. So maybe that factored into it. It's not as close as people might have assumed. But you know, they're so entrenched in the competitive advantage. I don't know why they just stopped. Because they did it with Goddard as well. They didn't wait till today to put him on the 53. It's a head scratcher.
Bit of a surprise, and you're right. It's kind of flies in the face of the way the Eagles have been doing business since Sirianni took over as coach last year. Don't give the other team any information until the last possible moment, but they made a couple conscious decisions. And your point about he just isn't ready to go, Jody, my sources tell me it wasn't really close. They were hoping against hope here. How the hell did he finish the game against Chicago? We're now a couple days later. Not only did he finish the game, he finished the game strong and made good passes in that fourth quarter.
Better after he got hurt. Arguably, as a passer, at least, he played better after than before. Yeah, I mean, that's just adrenaline. You're in the game. It hasn't, started to show the effects. Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. And then after the game, you sit down and you're not in it, and it starts to, whether it's a swelling issue or it starts to, rest and heat, and it starts to lock up, or 100 different things. It happens all the time, though. I mean, guys can get through a game, and then after the game, they're like, oh, there's an issue here. And adrenaline has a lot to do with that. So, I kind of asked, why was Jalen finishing the game? And, no one's aware of the seriousness of the injury. Jalen's probably not aware. I know Jordan said, when he stayed down for a little bit, he said, "Get me the F up." He's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Get me the F up." He's a tough guy, and Nick pointed that out. But if you're injured, you're injured the next week, and you can be as tough. No one's questioning his toughness. I mean, he's just not ready to go.
No one should be questioning his toughness, and we're questioning kind of the way the Eagles handle that. And this is not how dare they type questioning. This is just really type questioning. It just kind of surprises me because the Eagles have been so just tied into don't give up any information until the last possible moment. But they made a couple of decisions ahead of time here. Goddard reactivated and Hurts not starting. Goddard reactivated. How much is he part of the offense? We know how good he is. If he wasn't on the injured reserve list, he'd probably be just another Eagle on the Pro Bowl, as the kind of season he was having before he got hurt. But there's timing. It's Gardner Minshew. Do we just believe that after being off for a month himself, Gardner being off all season, they're going to be able to go out and they had a good game last year against the Jets? That was his favorite target, throwing the ball for Minshew, was Goddard. What do you expect out of Goddard Saturday night against the Boys?
Yeah, I mean, I expect him to be a big part of the game plan because of how Gardner plays. I mean, part of it was, part of it's not just Dallas being a great player. That's what Gardner does well. He's very quick to process. He's very quick to get the football out of his hands, which is good this week against a good pass rush with Dallas. That's a positive. He likes to throw the ball inside the numbers. Some people like to throw it outside the numbers. Jalen's been great at the deep ball, the go routes. I don't think you're going to see a lot of that. That's not the strength of Gardner Minshew. It's in breaking routes. Big bodies are good. I think this is a big A.J. Brown week as well. Maybe lesser of a Devontae Smith week. Those outside the numbers throws. That's what he does well. And that's why Dallas had such a big game last year. That was, remember, you had the Zach Ertz trade. So you still had Zach Ertz at the beginning of the year. So you had that sort of back and forth with the tight end still. That was Dallas Goedert's career high at the time for receiving. And that's because of how Gardner plays. And I think he had 6 for 105 and 2 touchdowns, I think were the numbers. That was his best game ever at that point. Now he's done a lot since then, but at the time, so it was sort of his breaking out party post Zach Ertz, and part of it was just how Gardner Minshew plays. And I think Gardner ended up 20 of 25 because early in the game, he was great. He had a bunch of straight completions, him and Dallas, and the Jets couldn't do anything with them. And then they kind of ran away with the game. So much better opponent this time. And we'll see how it shakes out, but that's what Gardner Minshew does well. So I expect Dallas Goedert and A.J. Brown to be big parts of the game plan.
One quick question for you, and it's really a two-parter, and Eddie Kratz is going to join us here in a second, so I'll just ask you one of the 2 parts. You mentioned A.J. Brown could be a big player because it's between the numbers. What if Dallas goes man-to-man and they put Diggs on A.J. Brown wherever he goes? Then
the Eagles don't care. The Eagles think A.J. Brown can beat anybody. And I was talking to actually Ian Book.
But is that a smart way to handle it?
Yeah, I think so.
Here's one of my favorite John McMullen words. Eagles hubris aside, is that smart to do it? Just say, well, we don't care. A.J. Brown's that good. We're going to do whatever the hell we want.
A lot of it depends on, you got to get a feel. I hate to bring up officials. I rarely do. But you got to have a feel, because I go back to that Jefferson game with Darius Slay. And Slay did a phenomenal job on him, but they let him play that day. I mean, there was a lot of hands on, and if they're not allowing that, I think that's up to Shane and Nick to adjust. But yeah, I like that. Just because of the NFL and the way they play the game, typically, receivers have the advantage, and AJ's got the advantage on everybody, and they're not gonna worry about Trayvon Diggs. But when we talk to John Machota, they're having issues at that other corner spot, and if they travel Diggs with Brown, yeah, you'd be wise to take advantage of that other corner, no matter who he's on. But I think it would be kind of silly for them to travel Diggs anyway because of the issues they're having on the other side. So you got to see what the Cowboys kind of do. Shane's been very good at that. I know it wasn't the best week to point it out because I didn't love the game plan against Chicago, but Shane's been very good at seeing what's going on and sort of adjusting to what the defense is doing. So I think he'll be very cognizant of that.
For the year, yes. Shane Steichen's been very good, as you just described him. Last week, not so much. So we'll see how that plays. And it will be in part. And I know, and Steichen, you keep telling us, doesn't give you anything on the record, give you some good stuff off the record. So I'll take you at your word that that's the way he handles his business, which is good. This will be a nice little test. I never met an offensive coordinator, heard a quote from an offensive coordinator who didn't think he dictated terms, that they're going to do what they're going to do and the defense is going to react to us. No offensive coordinator ever admitted that, well, we'll wait to see what they do and then we'll adjust accordingly. No. They all want to dictate terms. They want to be the lead dog and they want to tell the defense, here's what you better do because we're going to do this. And I'm sure Shane Steichen is just like the other 31 offensive coordinators.
I think the impressive part about Shane, he's a comfortable 50-50. Like he thinks we can he thinks we can dictate, but if they're giving him something, that's how he's going to pound the you-know-what out of it. If he thinks they're giving him something, he's going to adjust and really, really take advantage of it.
And we'll see how it shakes out with Gardner Minshew at the helm. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald, Mac Birds 365. It's a football Friday, and we got him because Nick Sirianni isn't talking today. So it's good to get Ed Kratz from Sports Illustrated back with us here on a football Friday on Birds 365.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Number 1, Jeff D'Ambrosio. Destination Downingtown is rolling back prices for a December to remember. For a limited time, you can own, not lease, brand new 2023 Jeep Wranglers for only $30,995 or $339 per month. New Rams starting at only $30,995 or new Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cabs $189 per month. Zero down can deliver. Get the price you want, the selection you need, and the VIP treatment you deserve. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Big Finish Sales Event.
Did you know taxes could be your biggest expense during retirement? Are most of your assets in tax-deferred accounts like IRAs and 401ks? Taxes are historically low today, but we're facing significant headwinds in the future. Do you have a plan? The Thrive Financial Team has more than 100 years of experience helping people across the Delaware Valley with forward-looking tax planning. Learn how to shift your money from forever tax to no or low tax accounts. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
You got your Mackinac guys here on Birds 365. We are joined by Easy Ed Kratz from Sports Illustrated, jumping in with us on a Friday. Good to see Eddie here. Here's why I want to start today, Ed. Are you headed to Dallas?
I am not. No.
You're staying home too. All right, good. Then we're going to have to judge ourselves by the television, because I have gotten into debates on the radio, sometimes with the guys here on the stream, about the Eagles fans traveling to the game. Everyone please pay close attention. They are as good as, if not the best, traveling fan base.
Jody's going to rip you. I feel it.
That's perfectly fine. But sometimes they overstate how much they've taken over a stadium. They'll say 90-10 Eagles fans. Come on, stop it. Just don't even go there. They may make it sound like it's 90-10, but the only place where they've even gotten close to having the other side of 50% was Washington this year. And I talked to two people who, at the Giant game, I asked, no connections, just objective observers, right down the middle, not a Giant fan, not an Eagle fan. And they said it was a solid 75-25 Giant fans over Eagle fans. Eagle fans, again, telling me, we had more than half the stadium. No. But you make it sound like that, which is credit to the Giant fans. How many Eagle fans are going to be in Dallas for this game, Ed Kratz?
Maybe 100. No, I don't know. You're probably right about that. It's overestimated, the number of Eagles fans, but they are loud, and they do the
very
Eagles
loud
chants, and that makes them sound even louder because they all know it by heart, right? The Eagles chant, not that difficult, but I would say, there'll be maybe. It's tough to take over Dallas. I mean, they've got a good fan base. It's such a huge stadium that.
Well, that helps because it's so many tickets available that the Eagles fans come. But yeah, you can't take over that place.
And it's
on Christmas Eve.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's
People
going to be
stay home.
Yeah, people with young kids aren't taking.
I know two guys who are staying home named Kratz and McMullen, as a matter of fact, who are almost always.
Well, those decisions are made at the corporate level for me, Jody.
Understood. Yes.
For Ed.
I had the good fortune of being able to make my own decision on that. And, it was a no-brainer to me.
Like me going to the Jet game last night decisions made at the corporate level as well. My wife influenced me, and my daughter said, "You idiots should not leave the house." So we listened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wise decision. Wise decision.
Yeah. 3 points. Boy. But no, the Eagles fans will be there. I don't even know if you'll hear them, to be honest, because I think it's going to be a very small number of fans that will be parked at Jerry World on Saturday afternoon.
The Palace, Jerry's Palace, just outside of Dallas. I'd like to be very specific. It is.
Been there many times. Been there many, many times.
Beautiful, beautiful stadium. Love, and that's the only thing I'm going to miss. They've canceled, I read, 4,000 flights across the country because of the weather all over the country. But this is going to be a disaster travel weekend. So I hope everybody's okay. For the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is traveling to the game, but he's not going to play in the game, Ed Kratz. And Jody and I were talking about, were you a little surprised because of how the Eagles have been all season, that they pulled the plug on the competitive advantage nonsense? And Nick Sirianni confirmed Gardner Minshew. And earlier in the week, I was a little surprised they activated Dallas Goedert. They usually wait till the last minute when they do those things.
Yeah.
It seems like they abandoned it this week. Any thought behind that and why?
I think it's just a no-brainer, especially playing Jalen Hurts, or rather Gardner Minshew, on Saturday. I mean, why continue with the charade? Everybody was saying Minshew should start and give Jalen Hurts the rest because, the Eagles pretty much have everything in hand here. So that was kind of a no-brainer. But, yeah, it was surprising. And then putting Goedert on the roster on Wednesday, I guess it was, or Tuesday. My days of the weeks are all missed. Day of the week is
I still don't know what day it is.
I know it feels like a Saturday or I don't know, but Goddard was added early too. Usually they wait until the last minute, which is 4:00 the day before kickoff, 4 p.m. And they did it early. I don't know. I thought maybe that might be a clue that Minshew was playing because those two, have some good chemistry between each other. They got a lot of reps the week leading up to Chicago with Minshew on the scout team and Goddard running scout team tight end. So I don't know. Maybe it's a clue that Minshew was going to play, but whatever the decision or reasoning was behind the decision doesn't really matter. We know now, and we can prepare for Minshew and Goddard probably having a big game together would be my prediction.
I would think that's a big part of the game plan. Yeah.
Minshew stepped in, played very well against a poor Jets defense last year, but did the job and asked the coach when he could be the starting quarterback. The coach just smiled at him. When Jalen gets hurt again, which is a year later, and now that's the case. They were singing his praises yesterday. Works hard. He's ready. He's been getting all the preps in and the like. I believe all of that. I think Gardner Minshew is a competitor. How does he match up with this Dallas defense? Because here's my problem, Ed. I don't know what this Dallas defense is. They'd been vulnerable to the run all year long and much better against the pass. Good pass rush, Diggs on the outside. And then all of a sudden, the last couple of weeks, specifically last week, they just got abused in the secondary with Anthony Brown out. What's the best way for the Eagles to attack this Dallas defense with Gardner Minshew at the helm?
Well, I think they're going to try to throw the ball. The cornerback opposite Trayvon Diggs is injured, right? Anthony Brown is hurt.
Yep.
I think
they've really struggled without Anthony Brown, which is surprising.
Yeah. Now maybe, as the weeks go by, he gets a little better, that he gets coached up, so to speak. But I think they'll try to attack Dallas in the pass game. And, I think they'll run Miles Sanders. I mean, Miles Sanders had the most rushes of his career against the Jets when Minshew played last year. He had 24 carries in that game. And then the following week against Washington, when Hurts came back, Sanders had another 18 carries. So, there's been talk this week about getting Miles more involved. He had 11 carries against the Bears. This is a guy that's over 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he had 11 carries. Didn't touch the ball until, midway through the second quarter. That's completely unacceptable if you're game planning against any opponent. So I think they're going to try to get Miles involved as well. And I think they're probably going to look for Dallas over the middle on some nice, easy throws, maybe get him involved in the tight end screens. We never saw that since he went out. We didn't see anything to Stoll or Calcaterra from a tight end screen perspective. That was a huge play that they used several times in a game. So I think we're going to see some of that, but I don't think they're going to ignore Smith and Brown on the outside either. I think they're going to try to get them the ball, and they may try to take some deep shots. I don't know how strong Minshew's arm is to get the ball deep, but I think they'll take some deep shots as well. But I think their main plan of attack will try to get the ball to Goddard, and they're going to use Sanders in the run game.
Do you think the coaches are – I don't want to say excited, but interested to see how they can get away from the RPO zone read game a little bit and run more of a conventional offense with Gardner Minshew and get more of these aspects involved? Because you mentioned the Miles Sanders stuff. Look, this week you just run inside zone. With Jalen on the field, he's so good, they feel the necessity to run zone read, and then it's up to the defender whether Jalen's going to get the football, keep the football, or Miles is going to get the football. This week, it's a little bit easier for the coaching staff to get Miles Sanders involved.
Well, you would think so, yeah. I mean, even, maybe Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell, throw them into the mix as well. But, yeah, I would think that you're going to take a lot of the RPO stuff out. The offense is going to look different. I could still see, once they start getting that run game going on the, the inside zones or the outside tosses, that you could see the RPO then come into play where maybe Minshew will take off and sweep the outside once or twice. But he's not going to be Jalen Hurts on the ground. No way. It's just not the way he plays. But listen, this is a talented team the Eagles have here. I think it was Chris Sims who said, look, if you put Gardner Minshew in, they're not going to skip a beat.
Yeah, Chris, a big week for Chris Sims.
Yeah. So now we'll see, because on one hand, he's right. This is a very talented team that the Eagles have. Obviously, look at the Pro Bowl. I mean,
it's insane on offense.
We've been watching the Pro Bowl all season long, really, and we never knew it. So, it's not just Minshew. Obviously, the quarterback's a big piece of this, but you have a defense that has 15 picks, right, which I think still leads in the NFL. They haven't had one in a while, but they've been piling up these sacks. So quarterbacks are holding the ball a little bit longer, waiting for something to open, and the pass rush is getting home. 55 sacks. So, you're bringing in one of the top defenses in the league, and you have A.J. Brown, one of the top receivers in the league. You have Devontae Smith, who's 99 yards away from becoming the second Eagles receiver to go over 1,000 yards. I mean, this is a well-rounded, very well-balanced team that's going to Dallas. It's not just Gardner Minshew, and a wing and a prayer. I mean, this is a good team that's around them.
Let me ask you about that sack group the Eagles have. Number one in the National Football League, passed the Cowboys 2 weeks ago, and now have opened up a lead for the most sacks. They've been great at getting the quarterback 2 weeks running. How does that work against the Cowboys? They've got the Smith bookend tackles, move Tyron out to the right side because they like what Tyler Smith has done filling in for Tyron when he was hurt at the left tackle, so they just want to leave him there. So a veteran guy, but playing out of position, and we may even see a little Jason Peters giving him a playoff every once in a while, which they don't usually do on the offensive line, but John McMullen said that's exactly what they did last week. Is this the kind of offensive line, and is Dak Prescott the kind of quarterback where the Eagles can get 5 or 6 sacks again this week?
Well, nobody's slowed them down these last few weeks. And Dak Prescott, I mean, he's got some mobility, but he's going to probably be in the pocket. He's going to try to get the ball out quickly. But yeah, I think the Eagles can get home. We saw Jason Peters, you mentioned him, play some guard when they came to Philadelphia a while ago. That was an abject failure. I mean, he was terrible at guard. So maybe he gets thrown in as a tackle for some snaps, but I don't know. But I think the Eagles can get home. I mean, Hassan Reddick, 12 sacks. He's been 27 pressures the last few weeks. I mean, he's really upped his game. First time Pro Bowler. On the other side, Josh Sweat's he's hunting 10 sacks. He's got 9.5. He's trying to get to the double digits like Reddick and Javon Hargrave. So, the Eagles pass rush can beat you inside and outside, and they're just hard to stop no matter, I think, who is playing on that offensive line. I think they will get home. And Gannett's doing some different things, too, with them. He's doing more twists and stunts and, giving them better opportunities to get home. So, yeah, I think the Eagles can still generate pressure on Dak Prescott and sack Dak Prescott. I could see them going for maybe 3, 4, or 5 in this game. Yeah, I don't see that line slowing them down any.
By the way, speaking of the pass rush, do you guys know no team in NFL history has ever had 4 guys with 10 sacks?
Yeah.
The Eagles already have 2. Josh Sweat has 9.5. Brandon Graham has 8.5. So they are on the cusp of doing something no team in the history of the NFL has ever done. And they generally get the pass rush done with 4. It's been an amazing turnaround from last year where they were 30th, but second to last in the league to Detroit in sacks. And it's interesting. This Javon Hargrave, I was talking to Javon about this. He thinks he played just as well last year. So I looked it up. Their pressure percentage was 24% last year. This year it's 24.6. That's the difference. But they're getting sacks because Hassan Reddick finishes, and his impact on everybody else, I think, has been dramatic. When I talk about defensive MVP, I said it was TJ. I'm starting to lean towards Hassan Reddick now. His impact on the entire defensive line.
Well, you look at when the sacks come, they have 55. 30 of those have come on third down, which is tops in the league. Hassan Reddick's got 9 of those, 9 of his 12 sacks on third down. Javon Hargrave has 6 of his 10 on third down. They're the 2 top. They're in the top 5. Reddick leads the
Reddick's
NFL
number 1,
in third down sacks. Yeah, Hargrave, I think, is 4th or 5th. It's people have asked me what my biggest surprise of the season has been so far. And, you take Jalen Hurts out of the equation because we didn't know, obviously, that, Hurts would be playing at an MVP level. We had hoped that maybe he would elevate his game from his first year as a starter. But to be playing at the level he was playing at, to me, is a huge surprise. But you take that out of the equation, and my answer is the sacks, the pressure that they have put on him. And that's an interesting stat, that the sack pressure, the pressure on a quarterback is similar to last year, but the sacks alone, I mean, yeah, you brought in Hassan Reddick and you thought, okay, he's sacked. He's been to double-digit sacks 2 of the last 2 years. Can he make it a third? That's a tough thing to do, but he did it. And then I didn't think Brandon Graham would come back from that Achilles injury.
Yeah. Brandon's big too, but they missed him last year. Yeah.
Comeback player of the year, in my opinion, has to be. I mean, coming back from a torn Achilles at 33 or 34 and putting up 8.5 sacks. And, listen, Brandon's been in this town for 12 years. He's never had double-digit sacks. So it would be nice to see him get to that milestone of 10 sacks. And we'll see. He's got 3 games really to do it. Maybe not even that. If the Eagles clinch, everything on Saturday by beating the Cowboys, we'll see what they do as far as snaps.
Yeah, that's a good point. He might not get the opportunity unless he gets it done against Jason Peters. How cool would that be if he gets 10 against Jason Peters?
That'd be a great storyline. Yeah. But and the fact that they have 4 guys that are, kind of knocking on the door, or 2 more knocking on the door to get to double digits, to become the first team to have 4 double-digit sackers is really, to me, that's just a huge surprise. I never saw that coming in my wildest dreams when this season started.
All right, a little bit of prediction on the matchups again. And John and I were talking about earlier that both offensive coordinators will probably believe in themselves coming in. Oh, we'll dictate terms. They'll have to react to us. It's always a give and take. It's a chess game between coordinators, which is the inside football stuff that is very fun. Let me ask you about the inside football decision by the Cowboys. Last week, they used CeeDee Lamb in the slot a lot. Put him in against Jacksonville in the slot to try and keep him from not going against the corner who made 2 big picks last week. And CeeDee had another good game. He is not only their number 1 target, for me, he's borderline only target, at least out of receivers. Their tight ends are okay. If they do that a lot, will Jonathan Gannon just go, no, listen, we play the defense we play. We play zone, we play corners. We're going to stick with what we do. Or will he react and maybe play it a little bit differently if Dallas tries to dictate terms by playing CeeDee Lamb in the slot?
Well, if the Cowboys come out and CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott are beating the Eagles defense over the head by playing him in the slot and they're completing passes and he's running free, then yeah, he better react. He better figure out a way to stop it, or they're just going to do what Shane Steichen does on offense with the Eagles. If a team's not stopping it, I'm just going to keep running it. So yeah, he better adapt and better adjust if CeeDee Lamb comes out and plays a lot of slot, and if Avonte Maddox can't match up with him one-on-one, or if they bring a safety down to help, they better find a way to squeeze that off, or the Cowboys are going to keep running it and they'll kill him with it.
Yeah, I typically the Eagles occasionally they let Slay travel with a big receiver, but just outside the numbers. He never plays in the slot. Now, one of the reasons why is because the Eagles have so much confidence in Avonte Maddox. He's such a good slot corner. Their thought process is he's their best player in the slot. So if he's not getting it done, well, somebody else isn't going to get it done. Now, to me, that would be a more interesting question if Avonte was out, like he was out for a number of weeks, and then you have Josiah Scott in there. That, to me, would be a more interesting question. But Avonte's so good. We talk about the talent level on this team. He's a top 5 slot corner in this league. If you put an outside corner inside, you're probably affecting 2 positions. So I wouldn't personally have a problem with Gannon. Sometimes you have a great player, you tip your hat. I think the Cowboys, from the Cowboys' perspective, they don't have the complementary receiver, which is why they're trying to find T.Y. Hilton and something, try to get Odell Beckham off as what to come in and try to help them. They don't have the complementary receiver to take advantage and manipulate you. Maybe the tight end, maybe Dalton Schultz is the better.
Yeah,
their second best receiver.
Yeah, but listen, Gannon did a good job taking Justin Jefferson out of the game, and that was the game plan. Take their best player out of the game, and that's, I would think, going to be a similar approach against Dallas, is take their best player, CeeDee Lamb, out of the game.
Do we know who the official is?
Yeah,
because Jody and I were talking about it. They were letting him play that
I think
day.
it's the guy
Alex Kemp, I think it
who
is.
let the Goddard face mask get away.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would not. I don't think. I hate to bring up officials. Jody knows that. I can't stand it. But they were letting Slay, way back I talked to, they were letting him play that day, and he was able to get very physical. I joked he could have had 4 interceptions in that game. He also could have had 4 pass interferences in that game. That's how they were letting him play. Usually, and certainly on the road, you're probably not going to be able to get that physical with a receiver with the caliber of CeeDee Lamb. But that's, you got to see how the officials are calling the game.
I like a let it play attitude from an official.
So do I. Oh, so do I.
Let them play. I mean, unless it's really egregious, like that face mask, which happened in the wide open, and somehow none of Alex Kemp and his minions or blind mice, whatever you want to call them, all that, which was amazing. That should have been a penalty for sure. But I like that let him play approach. We saw that in Chicago too. They weren't calling anything. We saw Jalen Johnson, the Bears DB, and A.J. Brown going at it downfield, a lot of hand fighting, a lot of physicality, and they didn't call anything. And I like that. Let those guys work through it, man. Let them get a rhythm and a feel for what they can do and can't do, and may the better man win. And I hope that's the approach that Kemp and his boys take, Saturday in Dallas.
Eddie, how much does emotion play in this game on Sunday? We know Eagle Nation gets jacked up every time they take on the Cowboys, their main rival. They've already beaten them once this year, but they had the backup quarterback in. Now the Eagles have the backup quarterback in. We know it's at stake that Dallas has to win if they want to save the small possibility that they could still take this division. Put it all together and come up with an emotional quotient. How emotional do you think the Eagles play this game? How emotional do you think the Cowboys play this game?
Well, just by having Gardner Minshew in there, I mean, he's an emotional wear the sleeve, his emotion on the sleeve type of guy. So he jacks up that quotient a little bit. But it's so interesting. That's the way this is the Eagles played Cooper Rush in the first meeting because Dak was on the bench, and now here we are round 2, and the Eagles starters on the bench with Minshew in, and I think there probably will be a round 3 at some point in the playoffs, and I think we'll see both quarterbacks at full strength, and we'll see really then who the better team was because, let's face it, a backup quarterback, you're not expected to win. This Eagles line started, I think, at -1, Dallas was favored by a point, and now it's grown to 5 after Hurts was ruled out.
Yeah,
So
I'm surprised that's not a bigger story. I haven't that the gamblers got the Hurts injury information before anybody else. That to me should be a big story, but it's not.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, listen, I think it's going to be an emotional game. It's interesting to see how much the Eagles will show in this game because they know there's a really good shot they could play them a third time in Philadelphia, probably for winner move on, loser go home scenario. So it's going to be interesting to see how much they show this Dallas team here in Dallas, because let's face it, this is a bigger game for the Cowboys than it is the Eagles. Yeah, the Eagles would like to wrap this thing up, but they have the luxury of 3 games, win 1. Cowboys have to win out. Minnesota has to win out. So this game, it had all the trappings of this great matchup, weeks ago. Everybody's looking to this great game, and it's going to break records with the ratings and this and that. It just doesn't have that same appeal, at least from a Philadelphia standpoint, because Dallas needs this game, and they've been struggling, and they need to find a way to, put those struggles behind them and win. But the Eagles aren't going to go out there and roll over either. I'm not saying that. I think it's going to be emotional. I think they're going to fight. I think there's going to be pushing. There's going to be shoving. And, I think the emotional quotient will be ramped up because of that and because of Gardner Minshew, who's very, very emotional when he plays this game.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's my Minshew point. You mentioned, how do the Eagles handle it? Do they not want to show too much? I think they let Gardner Minshew take care of that, because John continues to tell us they're an RPO-based team. That's what they are. They're a Jalen Hurts-based team. Well, they have to be something other than a Jalen Hurts-based team this week because Jalen ain't playing.
Right.
So Gardner, you have to come up with a game plan that works for Gardner Minshew, that helps you win the game, and that should take care of itself as far as hiding or disguising anything for a potential third matchup between these two teams.
Yeah.
Great point. That's a great point. Yeah, for sure. And we saw Dallas struggle with the RPO game, trying to defend that. They weren't really quite locked in on how to do it. We saw Micah Parsons a few times just kind of frozen in space, not knowing whether to attack Hurts when he got on the edge or go back out in coverage to cover Brown. And it made for easy completions to Brown because Parsons had no clue what he was doing. And, they're not going to do that this week. Let's face it, Hurts isn't there. So you're right. That's going to be an issue that Dallas is going to have to solve if they meet in round 3 in the playoffs, is figuring out how to stop the RPO. They should have no ability to do that.
Yeah. I asked, Nick said earlier in the year, week 6, when they were playing the Cowboys the first time, when he was talking about Mikey, he said, if he can't block him, read him, and they put him in conflict, as you mentioned, with the RPO, the zone read game. And he looked like Clay Matthews in the playoffs against Colin Kaepernick. He looked like a top. He didn't know what to do. This week, they got to block him. They can't read him. You can do it every once in a while, and maybe Gardner takes it for 3-4 yards. But, if anybody can block him, it's the Eagles with Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata. So that, to me, is going to be one of the most interesting matchups of this game. But this time they have to block him. They can't read him, so they have to block him.
And we know the Eagles can block, right? That whole offensive line is on the Pro Bowl. You got 2 guys starting, or we're not starting, but
3 guys. 3 guys making the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, and then the 2 alternates, right? Siamalu and Mailata are both alternate. I mean, the whole offensive line. So they can block. So advantage Eagles.
Yeah, 100% for Jeff Stoutland University.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And Stoutland University will have a big say in who wins this game on Saturday. The question is, what does Ed Kratz say? I need you on the record there, big guy. Minshew at the helm.
Right. It is game day.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. We are just 30-some-odd hours away from kickoff. You need to tell us how you think it's going to play between Eagles and Cowboys.
Well, it's tempting to pick the Eagles because I think Minshew is really going to be jacked for this game. And like I said, they have a good team around him. I think Minshew is going to try to win one for his former coach, Mike Leach. He went down to earlier this week. He went to eulogize Mike Leach at his services. So I think Minshew is going to be pretty fired up for this game. But I think Dallas will find a way to kind of put some of these struggles behind them. They're jacked up for this game. They know they have to win this game, and they know they need to beat the backup quarterback. That's probably how they're looking at it, and I think they will. I think the Cowboys will win this game. And it'll be interesting because now the Eagles will have lost 2 games this year, and both were with Alex Kemp as the official.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, but I think the Cowboys will probably find a way to win this game somewhere like 27-20, somewhere in that line. I think they do beat them by a touchdown and cover whatever the spread is.
It's interesting. I didn't think of that. So Micah Parsons was the, enemy number 1 in Philadelphia for his disrespect of the Eagles. But coming out of the game, it might be Alex Kemp.
Jalen Hurts. He didn't disrespect. He hyped the Eagles. He disrespected Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. Interesting. Alex Kemp, enemy number 1 now.
Could very well be, depending on how the flags fly. Eddie K, thank you very much for doing Football Friday with us. Since you are not getting on a big old jet plane going to Dallas, smart move. Enjoy the holiday after either an Eagle win or an Eagle loss.
And happy Festivus, Ed. Air those grievances. SI.com/NFL/Eagles.
Thanks, guys. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks,
That's Ed Kratz from Sports Illustrated here with Birds 365. All right, he's on the record. He's picking a Dallas win. again, it doesn't mean that the Eagles are going to fall apart. They still are going to win one of their last 3 games and capture home field advantage throughout, but everyone wants it, or I should say most people want it. Almost everyone wants it done this weekend against Dallas. Nothing better than locking it up against your number 1 rival. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. Birds 365, rocking and rolling on. We're going to have Kevin Kincaid from Crossing Broad. KK is always good whenever he hops on. 2 good Philly guys, Ed Kratz and Kevin Kincaid. A couple of Ks coming your way. He'll join us in about 20-some-odd minutes here on Birds 365.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Number 1, Jeff D'Ambrosio. Destination Downingtown is rolling back prices for December to remember. For a limited time, you can own, not lease, brand new 2023 Jeep Wranglers for only $30,995 or $339 per month. New Rams starting at only $30,995 or new Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cabs $189 per month. Zero down can deliver. Get the price you want, the selection you need, and the VIP treatment you deserve. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Big Finish Sales Event.
Did you know taxes could be your biggest expense during retirement? Are most of your assets in tax-deferred accounts like IRAs and 401ks? Taxes are historically low today, but we're facing significant headwinds in the future. Do you have a plan? The Thrive Financial team has more than 100 years of experience helping people across the Delaware Valley with forward-looking tax planning. Learn how to shift your money from forever tax to no or low tax accounts. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
Birds 365 on a football Friday before a big showdown between the Eagles and the Cowboys. Or we thought it was going to be a big showdown. It's still an important game. Don't get too haughty, Eagles fans. They still have to win one more game before they lock up home field advantage throughout the playoffs in the NFC. It's Eagles Cowboys. That makes it a big game just on face value. And Dallas, they want this game. They will be highly motivated to try and win this game, but they're as realistic about their chances as the Eagles are. We're talking 5%, 95%. 95% the Eagles are going to win the division. 5% the Eagles are going to, the Cowboys are going to. So we can look at it in the proper focus that it deserves. But the Cowboys want to continue to build some momentum going into the playoffs. They know they're probably going to have to go through via the wild card, which means a whole lot of road games, which might actually be a better thing for the Cowboys, truth be told. We on Birds 365 always look at things through an Eagle lens. What do you think the mindset of the Cowboys is this week, John?
I think, and John Machado we had on earlier in the week kind of explained this. it's about them from their perspective. They have to get themselves right because they know they're locked into the 5th seed. They know they're not going anywhere. That's where they're going to be, the 5th seed. So for them, it's about the postseason as well, getting right for the postseason. You mentioned those percentages. 538, the famous political prediction site, Nate Silver, 98. They have it.
Oh, really?
The Eagles are going to
I
win
just
the
guessed
division.
it. I rounded
No,
off.
yeah.
I rounded
98,
off.
that's what I'm saying. That's how a fait accompli this is. 98 to win the division, 97 first round bye. So the Cowboys kind of know. And they can't, they know the Giants aren't going to catch him. The Commanders aren't going to catch him or anybody else, the Lions, who might get in. So they're going to be the 5th seed. And they know they're going to have to go on the road against the 4 seed, which is going to be a very favorable matchup because it's going to be the winner of the NFC South, which is the worst division in the conference, most likely Tampa Bay. You have the Tom Brady problem, but that has not been a good football team for anybody who hasn't paid attention to Tampa Bay this year. So the Cowboys, even though it's on the road, should be favored, will be favored, should win the football game. Now, they should have won the football game last year when they lost to San Francisco, but no guarantee of anything. And that's why we're all talking about a potential third matchup. It's almost like the NFL scripting drama, right, Jody? You have Cooper Rush against the Eagles first, and all the Cowboy fans who say, well, it was Cooper Rush, and you didn't really beat us. And now it's Gardner Minshew against the Cowboys down in North Texas. And if the Eagles lose the game, Eagles fans will be able to say, well, you didn't beat Jalen Hurts. And then you set up the
same way
third
Cowboy
matchup.
fans said about Dak Prescott when the Eagles
Exactly.
beat Cooper Rush earlier this year. It's the same thing.
Same exact thing. So you build up that drama for match number 3, and you finally get Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott. I think that's what the NFL hopes happens. You almost think they're scripting the drama at times. But yeah, for the Cowboys, it's about getting right for themselves because they got to get right for the playoffs. They know their bait, just like the Eagles know their bait.
I brought this up Monday, and it's now even more locked in because he went full practice this week. Reed Blankenship was a participant on the quote-unquote projected lineup after not having a full practice. And yesterday he was fully invested in the practice, not limited in any way. It's amazing, the Reed Blankenship up and down. Looked like he might not make the team, even though I remember you and I talking about it back in the summer, how he always likes to have that one undrafted free agent that they can, hey, look, we got this guy when nobody else in the league thought of him. So we thought that was his way to maybe even sneak onto the roster. Sure enough, he does, makes the team. He doesn't see the light of day, doesn't play any. They got Chauncey Gardner, so he's buried on the bench. Ooh, shoot, injury. Ooh. They actually have him rated above a drafted player filling in at the safety position. Oh, he goes in and plays real well, makes some big hits, becomes a bit of a fan base darling, and then he turns around and gets hurt. Oh, how are we going to survive without Reed Blankenship? The ups and downs of Reed Blankenship's rookie year have been amazing. It looks like he's going to be good to go on Sunday, John. How big a re-addition is him to the lineup for the Birds?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say coming off the Chicago game because the plan worked so well. But I think, again, context is everything. All right. Chicago does not throw the football well at this stage of the game. They just don't. So you could get away with Kayvon Wallace a little bit more in that particular game than you can get away with him with a team that could throw the football. Now, obviously, the best case scenario would be CJ, who's still tied for the league lead in interceptions, but he's not available. Reed played very well for the most part. You had the one play against the Packers, but I think people forget, he wasn't the one who got beaten coverage there. He just took the wrong angle I believe Marcus Epps was the one who was beaten coverage by Christian Watson. And yeah, he took the wrong angle, but he'll learn from that. He's played very well. So it's kind of in between. It's better, because Dallas can obviously, we've talked about some of their issues and not having complimentary receiver for CeeDee Lamb and, maybe Dalton Schultz being the real number 2 there, but they're a heck of a lot better throwing the football than Chicago. I mean, they're not incompetent throwing the football. They can hurt you throwing the football. So it's more important to have your actual post safety in there. So Blankenship is their best option. So yeah, it's a big get back this week.
That, and of course, Dallas got it coming back. We knew it as of early this week. We thought that was going to be the case last week. I asked you about this last week. How much do you think the weather factored into that? Because Dallas certainly talked it up that he was good to go. As soon as he was activated, he was going to be good to go. He even questioned whether he needed to go on IR for the full 4 weeks, and then he has to go an extra week before he gets back into the lineup, and you can draw whatever conclusions, read into that, whatever you want. This week, they weren't even waiting. They activated him earlier this week. We know he and Gardner Minshew had a big game last year against the Jets. That's his type of routes and the type of routes it seems like Gardner Minshew likes to throw. Well, if I know this, and certainly John McMullen knows this, Dallas Cowboys probably know this as well. What do you think Dallas will do to try and stop a guy like the returning Dallas Goedert?
Well, Dallas usually plays 3 safeties anyway. For the majority, their sort of base defense is a 3 safety defense, so they're probably better equipped for that stuff than most people. And their 3 safeties are pretty good, by the way, as well. At least typically through the season. We joke a lot about ESPN and their stupid football power index, and Dallas seems to be number 1. I think
that seems to be, has been, continues to be, is still, as we sit here right now. And if, God forbid, the Eagles win this game with Gardner Minshew this week and they're still number 1 come Christmas Day, that's not going to be a good look for you. It's not now, but it'll just even be worse.
Yeah, I mean, they are a good football team. Now, that's silly. But they are a good football team. And I think defensively, especially, and that's what I was trying to look up. So defensively, they're 8th overall, top 10. They're top 10 in most categories, most significant categories. They're number 1 in generating turnovers. Number 1, they're even better than the Eagles. They create more turnovers. They're number 2 in turnover ratio to the Eagles. The Eagles are number 1 in turnover ratio because they take care of the football a little bit better. But I think a big part of their defense is those safeties. So we're talking about Donovan Wilson. That's why, Donovan Wilson has played 812 snaps. Malik Hooker's played 684, and Jaron Kearse played 636. They play those guys together. They might be the only team in the league that just flat out base defense 3 safeties.
Right.
So they might be better equipped to handle tight ends than any other team in the NFL. And and when you have these bad defensive games, and we see it here, probably Philadelphia is the best example of this, Jody. The Eagles are the 2nd ranked defense in the entire NFL. We talked about the sacks, the turnovers, the number 1 pass defense, everything they have. And you still have a big portion of the fan base that thinks the defense stinks. Because again, I think in the modern NFL, good offense beats good defense. So even the best defenses can be gashed if you're playing good offense. And to me, good offense starts with, if you can block people, you can score in this league. So when you look at the Cowboys and say, wow, they gave up a 17-point lead, their defense stinks. Their defense doesn't stink. It's really, really good. And you got to be wary of it. You can't just default to, they gave up. Everybody gives up leads in this league, maybe with the exception of the 49ers.
Yeah, but
I got to look at the 49ers schedule because I'm sure they've had bad games defensively as well. Because everybody
had one.
does.
Kansas City hung a 40-plus spot on.
Well,
them.
there you go.
That was, I think Bose was out of the lineup that day. 49ers were a little beat up defensively when Kansas City had the big day on them. Defenses can peak and valley. They can go up and down, and we'll see if the Cowboys can get back on an uptick. Last night, the Jet defense did a pretty damn good job of shutting down the Jaguars offense, held them to a couple of field goals. The Cowboy defense didn't come close to doing what the Jets defense did against that same Jaguar offense in back-to-back weeks. I'll say the Cowboy defense, they've been too good too often this year to get dismissive because they got a 40 spot hung on them last week. But they're not playing their best defense right now. And the Eagles need to take advantage.
They're definitely not. They're definitely not. But I think when you look at the players and you see, and we haven't even brought up, I was talking about the safeties. I mean, Micah Parsons is whether you like him or not, it's one of the best defensive players in this league.
Yep.
DeMarcus Lawrence is still one heck of a player up front. Dorrance Armstrong is having a good year. I know he's a little bit banged up. I think he's questionable, but he's a really good player. Leighton Vander Esch is out, but they still have the linebacker from Minnesota, former Pro Bowl guy, Anthony Barr. Anthony Barr. I mentioned the safeties. Trayvon Diggs is, don't let your guard down on that guy. Let's put it that way. They have a lot of good players on defense. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, just because they had a bad week, don't assume they're a bad defense.
Trayvon Diggs is a lot like Darius Slay. I know Eagle fans probably won't want to hear that because Slay has been as good as he has since he got into an Eagle uniform. Slay gets beat too. Slay makes big plays. He's a playmaker. That's why he likes being called Big Play
Everybody
Slay.
gets beat. Everybody gets beat. I flipped on the Jets. Ahmad Gardner's having a great year. Great year. I happened to flip on the game. The minute I flipped on the game, Evan Ingram made him look silly, a tight end. Everybody gets beat. It's so hard to play corner in the NFL. It doesn't matter who you are. You're getting beat at certain points. And this assumption that guys don't get beat, they get beat. You see, Slay is a phenomenal cornerback. But yeah, if you're judging, we can never get beat, that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist.
No such thing as a shutdown corner in the National Football League anymore. Just doesn't happen. But I'm just saying that because Diggs is a playmaker. Yeah, you pick out the play where he gets beat. Okay, fine. Do you pick out all the interceptions that he comes up with? He will give up a play every once in a while, but he's also got a chance to make a game-turning type play. So I think the Eagles would be well advised to do exactly what the Jacksonville Jaguars did last week. Find out who's playing the other side away from Diggs and just abuse the Cowboys' backup cornerbacks. That's how Trevor Lawrence did it last week. Gardner Minshew would be well advised to do the same exact thing. We'll see if that's the way that Shane Steichen decides.
I don't know if he has the arm strength to do it. That's my one concern with Gardner Minshew. I don't think he can just sit in the pocket and sling it outside the numbers consistently. So you got to scheme some things up with Gardner.
Because Lawrence certainly does have that kind of arm. It was on display last week against the Cowboys, and he made a couple of those throws last night against the Jets. All right, Jody McDonald, John McMullen, here with you on Birds 365. Kevin Kincaid, the main man at crossingbroad.com, going to jump in with us. We'll talk some Eagles, Cowboys with KK. We still got 40 minutes left to chop it up with you on Eagle Cowboy Week here on Birds 365.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Number 1, Jeff D'Ambrosio. Destination Downingtown is rolling back prices for December to remember. For a limited time, you can own, not lease, brand new 2023 Jeep Wranglers for only $30,995 or $339 per month. New Ram starting at only $30,995 or new Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cabs $189 per month. Zero down can deliver. Get the price you want, the selection you need, and the VIP treatment you deserve. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Big Finish Sales Event.
Did you know taxes could be your biggest expense during retirement? Are most of your assets in tax-deferred accounts like IRAs and 401ks? Taxes are historically low today, but we're facing significant headwinds in the future. Do you have a plan? The Thrive Financial team has more than 100 years of experience helping people across the Delaware Valley with forward-looking tax planning. Learn how to shift your money from forever tax to no or low tax accounts. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
Got Jody McDonald, John McMullen, the Mac and Mac guys here with you on Birds 365. We are joined by another bearded wonder, his being much darker than either McMullen's or mine.
You got to cut that thing off and just go mustache for Gardner this week, Kevin.
Ooh.
Oh man, that would be something else, wouldn't it? I don't know.
Did you even contemplate that, Kincaid?
Yeah.
No, I never really did the mustache November. What's it called? Movember. I never really did any of that stuff.
You don't want to do that.
I don't think my wife and children are ready for that quite yet.
Jordan Mailata did that. He
did he?
trying to bring the stash back. Yeah.
Yeah. No
but
shade.
Gardner doesn't even have it right now, so I don't know why people are going nuts.
How do I sound, by the way? I've just defeated a sinus infection, so if I sound nasally like Fran,
you sound spectacular.
Okay,
I like it. Nice deep voice. I like it.
Very good. Very good.
How are you? I would not have compared you to Fran Drescher ever.
No, I do have a different kind of voice.
I'd like to see her in a mustache, as a matter of fact. No, never.
Oh man,
I don't want to go there. All right, Kincaid, who has got more pressure on them this week? Gardner Minshew or Dak Prescott?
Dak Prescott for sure. Not even a question. I mean, we've got the built-in excuses already, Jody, right? You know, if the Eagles win, the Cowboys are frauds. If the Eagles lose, you just use the same excuse that they used.
Yeah.
Didn't have our starting quarterback, right? And I don't think Gardner Minshew is the kind of guy who feels any pressure anyway. He's just a, football loving, go out there and have fun kind of dude. And he's no joke either. I mean, I feel pretty confident with him in there. I feel just as confident with Gardner Minshew in there as I did with Nick Foles in 2017.
Here's where I think I can legitimize the question, because on its face, of course, it's Prescott because the Cowboys are trailing the Eagles and they got to qualify for blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew wants to start in this league. The fact that last year when he beat the Jets, he walked into Sirianni's office and said, "Hey, how can I become the starter of the Philadelphia Eagles?" And Nick kind of smiled and laughed at him and said, "Thanks, Gardner, but not happening." I'm sure he feels exactly the same again now, and he's a free agent at the end of this year. Last year, he knew that wasn't the case. He was under contract to the Eagles again. He comes out with a big game tomorrow. He basically guarantees himself a shot to compete for a starter's job next year. He comes out and lays an egg. He'll be looking for a backup job again next year. So, to me, that kind of does make it pressurized for Mr. Minshew as well.
Pressure on him individually in a vacuum, not necessarily related to the Eagles' future. Yeah, but that's I think that's accurate. I would agree with that. And people seem to forget too, he's not some career backup. You know, I mean, he was the starter in Jacksonville. He took Nick Foles' job. You know, I mean, he came in and had a pretty strong run there initially. We joke about it now, and we say Minshew mania and all that stuff. But for a couple of weeks there, I mean, he was like the hottest thing in the NFL. You know, that really wasn't that long ago. So I think that's why I feel pretty comfortable, going into that game. By the way, the biggest compliment that you can pay to Jalen Hurts is that the line for this game moved an entire touchdown.
Close to it, yeah.
How many other quarterbacks in this league are worth 7 points or 6 points spread straight up? I mean, to me, that was amazing.
By the way, I keep saying this, so I'm going to say it to you, Kevin. I'm beating a dead horse because nobody cares. But I think it's a problem that the gambling community found out about this injury first, more than any NFL insider, anybody who's around the team. All of a sudden it went from 1 to 5, and people are looking around going, what the heck happened here?
That was a weird 30 minutes on Twitter where everybody just kept refreshing, waiting to hear the worst news of all time. But what my immediate thought was, John, it's like, hey, at Crossing Broad, that's how we make all of our money is with the sports.
Well, I have no problem with it, but I think the NFL should be concerned about it.
Yeah, well, the point I was gonna say, I mean, we've got all these relationships with the sports books. How do I get to their contacts? All these people who know that something's up with Jalen Hurts. Hey, you got to feed that information to me.
Exactly.
I could beat Garofalo. I could beat Rapshi. I could beat all these guys. I got to get somebody to help me out.
Well, let me paint a possible scenario for you guys, and this is based on no information or inside knowledge. Adam Schefter signed a contract extension with ESPN this year. Did he not?
I believe so.
Right. Wasn't there at least the conversation that he could go to work for one of the major betting outlets just to make sure that they got the information that he has before anybody else? Now, he didn't sign. He stayed with ESPN, but is there a chance?
What do you think? He's double dipping?
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. I know nothing. I'm like Sergeant Schultz here. I know nothing. I'm just saying.
It's a very interesting topic, is it not? And I think if there's anything positive to come out of this is that the NFL and the books don't want any like wishy-washy kind of stuff happening right up until game time. So I think there is a renewed emphasis on like, hey, if there's injury information, let's get it out there and let's be transparent with it. Unless a guy is questionable and he really is truly a game time decision.
Hold on. Are you telling me FanDuel dictated that Nick Sirianni tell us that Jalen Hurts wasn't playing on Thursday? That's why he came out with it that early. That the NFL said, no, we can't be wishy-washy. Kincaid hit the nail right on the head. We can't be wishy-washy. Is he playing or isn't he playing? Tell him, Sirianni.
Yeah, you want to know, is he playing or is he not playing? And with the sports book, I mean, maybe not necessarily through the path of the sports books mandating, hey, we need to know. But, I mean, we got from point A to point B somehow, right? So there's the Jalen Hurts injury thing was resolved days before the game is actually going to take place. So I think people in a vacuum would probably say that that's a win,
Yeah, that's true. We don't have the nonsense competitive advantage that we typically have. Leading up to a game.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about Jalen as a whole because I saw you and Kyle talked about, and I think this is an interesting debate. Jody and I had it. There's two extremes to the spectrum, right? You have that group that says Jalen Hurts ran it 17 times. That's too much. You can't run Jalen Hurts 17 times. Then you have the more contextual view, and Nick Sirianni got in the weeds about it. And you can always tell. I tell Jody, you can always tell when something hits home with Nick because he gets in the weeds and explains things really distinctly. He said, well, you got victory formation. You got quarterback sneaks. You take that off. And then you have all the zone reads, and that's up to the defender who gets the football. If they crash, Jalen's going to go outside. If not, you're going to hand the football inside zone to Miles Sanders. So there are two extremes. Nick said there were 2 called runs for Jalen Hurts. By the way, Shane Steichen said there were 6. So there's even disconnect in the building.
And that's not 1 or 2 off. That's a difference of 4.
Yeah. Either way, though. But the people saying 17 carries, they're fully what as well. Where I think Nick hit home is explaining this is why we're good. This is why we do that. So when Jalen Hurts gets back, Kevin Kincaid, are you going to be cautious with him, or are you going to run the offense that made you so good?
going to run the offense that got us to 13-1. You know, they may never be at this point ever again in Jalen Hurts' entire career. How often does a team go 13-1? Like they are in it to win it. There is no looking ahead to next year, like protecting this guy or whatever. Yeah, you're probably going to sign him to a long-term contract, but they may never have a better chance to win the Super Bowl than they do right now. Okay, so you do what got you there. It's just the nature of these kinds of quarterbacks. I mean, I'm not saying anything profound here, but the bottom line is that, look, that's why I did the example in our show the other day. If they called 100 RPOs in a row, but 100 times in a row, the defensive read was for Jalen Hurts to pull and run himself, then he's making the right decisions. You know, it's not even about the right or the wrong decision. It's the decision is predicated on what somebody is showing you. So I don't have an issue with it. My only issue beyond it is that you do have to go outside of the scheme of option plays to manufacture legitimate touches from Miles Sanders, right? Because you can't come back after.
And you'll see that this week, by the way. You'll see just regular inside zone because Gardner can't. He can do it, but he's not going to be as effective.
He's not. No, Gardner Minshew is not Dennis Dixon and Pat White and pick any other college quarterback who ran zone read to perfection. He is not that, you know. And so that's my only thing is that you can throw your hands up in the air after a game and say, well, we had 27 RPOs and only one of them went to Miles Sanders. Well, in the end of the day, you've still failed to get the ball in the hands of a Pro Bowler, right? So I mean, more than one. You know, this is a classic case of more than one thing can be true, right? So. I throw caution to the wind, honestly. Like, I know people are concerned about the quarterback, but like the way that I look at it in the immediacy is like, they're 13-1, man. You may not get another chance to do this anytime soon. So you got to go for it and you got to keep doing what's made you successful up until this point.
But here's where John and I diverge in the woods. John is a guy who believes that you don't change a thing. That your two choices are we scrap it all and redo the offense because Jalen got hurt, or we're going to do whatever the hell we want because we're the Philadelphia Eagles and we're 13-1. And we're going to do it because we know it. There's a happy medium in the middle there. You can adjust the offense. Yeah. You can pull back on the reins a little bit and not have Jalen run it as much. I don't know. Maybe I'm a centrist, but at heart, but I don't know the reason why people feel the need to get to the divergent ends. Maybe it's because of the political climate in which we live. You got to be one or the other. You can't be in the middle. I think the middle is where they belong. I think they need to adjust some. I think part of why Jalen got hurt was they lean on it a little too heavily, and there's a happy medium somewhere in the middle. But we shall see.
The thing that bolsters your argument, Jody, is that Jalen Hurts has turned out to be a much better passer than any of us expected. He's thrown beautiful.
He's the highest rated passer from the pocket in the NFL. Highest, numero uno, number one from the pocket.
If we were talking about Tim Tebow here and all he could do is run zone read and RPO and throw screen passes and throw 10 yards, I mean, then we'd have a different conversation. But Jalen Hurts is dropping, dimes over the shoulder to not just his WR1, but Devontae Smith as well. So you can say, yeah, we can chuck the ball down the field. And they did chuck the ball down the field. That's the irony in all of this.
Yeah, they did it in that game.
Yeah. Is that in the game where he ran the ball 17 times, he also threw it 12 times, 20 yards or more down the field. I mean, so you could legitimately say, yeah, we can make some tweaks to the offense because he is that damn good at the other part, So, I mean, it's like you're spoiled for riches, honestly. He's an amazing zone read and RPO quarterback, but he's got two great wide receivers. He's got the best weapons of any quarterback going back to, God, if I know. I mean, Shady and Macklin in 2014, I guess. I don't know, but yeah. So you can make an argument that you can tweak it just because he's so much better at that than anybody thought he was going to be.
Yeah. To bring a larger theme to it, because I also believe this, and you're a good person to bounce this off of, Kevin, because you cover all Philadelphia teams. In a lot of ways, I think Sam Hinkie broke Philadelphia for a number of fans from this perspective. Nobody ever thinks. Everybody's always talking about the future. Everybody's always talking about the future. There's a big difference between being the worst team in basketball and trying to rebuild and being 13-1, as you pointed out. 13-1 doesn't come around often. This team's been around since 1933. All right. They've already tied the franchise record for wins I always go back to Dan Marino. Dan himself said second season makes the Super Bowl, it's like so far ahead of everybody else in the passing game. Oh, I'll be back. Never got back. The assumption the window's open for 5 years, you got to seize the moment. Everybody's talking about, not everybody, but again, talking about the Saints game. You got to win the Saints game to make sure the draft pick goes higher. No, you don't. You got to win the Super Bowl. You have to take advantage of this window. Where are you on that sort of spectrum?
I agree 100%. The window is now. And that's why I've taken this maybe annoyingly hardcore turn to Jody's lunatic fringe of Posidelphia this year. Because, I hear these gripes about Jonathan Gannon. I hear what Seth is saying, right? I've been obliterating Seth all year long because I think that when you square it down to the most basic thing, they're 13-1. This never happens. This happens maybe once every 25 years, if that. If we are not living in the moment and enjoying the moment right now, then what are we doing? Why do we watch football? Why do we cover football? This is it. This is it. If you want to keep an eye out and say, well, yeah, about the draft next year and you got these picks or whatever. I mean, that's fine.
It's nice.
You can win the whole damn thing right now.
Yeah.
You win the whole damn thing right now. And I think that we're just conditioned to, always be asking for what could be better, what can improve or whatever. And I get it. That's a good philosophy to have in life. I can always get better at something, right? But you can't do much better than 13-1. There's not, you're going from, it's easy to go from bad to good. It's easier to go from good to great, to go from great to elite. It's very little, this is what people are arguing about on Twitter right now is this much, so I just want people to, you can have all these conversations. We can have these discussions about Jonathan Gannon and scheme and Jalen Hurts and running and whatnot. I just hope people are enjoying the ride, man, because this stuff just doesn't happen very often. And the window is right now. It's right now.
Now, I agree with what you're saying, but.
Classic Cody right here. Yeah.
Jalen Hurts and the MVP. Prior to last week's game against Chicago, he was the favorite in the MVP. He was less than even money. He was minus 120, 140 to win the MVP. Again, the gambling outlets get information before John Q. Public does. The Cowboy Eagle line moves, as does the MVP wagering. And Jalen goes from a minus bet to a plus 400, 4-1 to win the MVP. I don't have a problem with that. Some people thought that was outrageous. How do you do? He got hurt. You can't hold getting hurt against him. Yeah, you can. That's kind of what it's all about. Joel Embiid has lost the last two MVPs because Jokic plays every single game for Denver. Yeah. That is what kind of they base the MVP on, your most important ability being availability. Sorry, Jalen, it sucks, but you got hurt and you're going to miss time and it's going to cost you the MVP. You got a problem with it?
Not really. I mean, we all know Carson Wentz would have won it in 2017 if he stayed healthy. He even got 2 votes. Carson Wentz got 2 votes,
Yeah.
And the basketball people can have all these discussions about VORP and Raptor and all this crap, the dorks with the calculators come in and they make their own formula and they say, well, according to my formula, blah,
I
blah,
like
blah.
VORP, by the way.
Yeah, VORP. You a big VORP guy, John?
Huge VORP guy.
Yeah, huge VORP guy. But here's the point. We have all these stupid cliches and stuff like that, but the best ability is availability.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the voters have whether you believe that or not, the voters have come to say that is indeed true.
Correct.
So that's the bummer because I think I would have liked to see, and maybe we still have this discussion if Jalen comes back after this game, but how do you compare an apple to an orange in Patrick Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts? How do you compare a guy who does all this damage on the feet and is an incredibly high, I'll give you a stat that they use in basketball that we don't use in football, but usage rate, the usage rate for Jalen Hurts running and passing, he's got the ball in his hands more than Mahomes does. So how do you
sure
parse
about
all
that?
of these? I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure. I don't even have to look it up. I'm sure. Yeah. I'm absolutely sure. Yeah. Combine his passing attempts and his rushing attempts, especially what he's done in the red zone. I mean, how do you parse that? It's just, you're comparing 2 different quarterbacks. I would have loved to see how the general public you know, this is the stupidest thing. Call him quote unquote a running quarterback when he's throwing great passes this year versus a quote unquote pure passer in Patrick Mahomes, who also is pretty good on the feet too. So I don't know. I would have liked to see that discussion. I would have liked to see them both.
Yeah,
play.
well, that's one of my most hated discussions in the world, because you always hear, "Oh, a dual threat quarterback can't win the Super Bowl." Look, you know, Jeff Hostetler won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. I find it very hard to believe that if the stars align, Jalen Hurts can't win a Super Bowl. And oh, by the way, on the back end of that argument, Kevin, if he does win the Super Bowl, those critics will say, well, that's because he improved as a passer, which is right.
Yeah.
So I don't even understand the discussion, because you've already, I always joke in these debates, if you got the GPS programmed to the destination, it's getting you there. No matter how many turns you take, it's getting you there. And if you believe a running quarterback can't win a Super Bowl, Steve Young, but they already said, well, Steve was a great threat. Yes, but he could run.
Yeah.
So the debate is skewed, because already Jalen Hurts is a great passer. As Jody pointed out, he leads the NFL
from the
in pocket passer rating. He's top 5 in passer rating overall.
Yeah,
he's already a good thrower.
You get to the problem too. This happens in everything that requires any kind of vote. Is the subjectivity of the term value? How do you define the term value?
Yeah.
It's like,
well,
when
that's
you go
true.
to when the baseball writers vote on the Hall of Fame every year, those ballots are all over the place. There's like one dude who hasn't voted for a single person in 4 years because he doesn't think any of them are good enough. Then you have some who vote for the steroid guys. You have some who are like steadfastly against the steroid guys. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we got rappers in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Like what is the criteria? Like the criteria needs
By the
to
way,
be,
you're a rocker. Why did it take Pat Benatar so long to get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Oh, don't even get me started on all of this. There's bands that like it took Judas Priest like 75 years to even get in there, you know. So, but Eminem is in there, you know. So I don't know.
We'll have to have a separate Birds 365.
Exactly. Yeah. Rock and Roll 365.
I brought this up with Ed Kratz earlier, and you deal with the public, your website, getting responses, stuff like that, Kevin. So you're a good guy to ask. Eagles are as good a traveling fan base as there is in the National Football League. You know it. I know it. John knows it. Oh, they know it too. And they like to tell me about it when I'm on the radio about how the Giant game a couple weeks ago was 3-1 Eagles fans. No, it wasn't. I asked a couple people specifically what we say the breakout was, and they said more Giant fans than Eagle fans. Eagle fans were just loud, but they sometimes overstate exactly how many people make the trip and get tickets to get in the stadium. This is a week it's going to be very difficult, and I'm not knocking or mocking Eagle fans at all, because it's Christmas, the weather stinks, and Dallas is good. They're not just going to give up their tickets, so I don't expect a big-time Eagle presence. They have given their team that on the road this year, and I think it's helped. That's not the main reason they're 13-1, but it's helped. How small a contingent of Eagle fans do you think will be in Dallas tomorrow?
Well, I think the overarching theme here is that you go to Dallas, you go to Washington, you go to New York every year, you know. So for the fan groups, you know, fans of Philly, for example, who are putting together these trips, Washington, Dallas, New York are not exotic. Like, you're not looking forward to those. It's like you don't get the, you know, they're looking for like the Raiders road game to pop up every 10 years or something. They're looking for the Chargers road game to pop up every so often. I think I don't think there's any allure to going down to Dallas, because most of the Eagles fans who do all the traveling all the time have probably already been there before.
Yep.
Yeah. You're looking for like the different locations or whatever. But that's a good point, though. I mean, I never really remember any Dallas game where there was like a massive Philly contingent there, because Dallas has a good, you know, they fill up that stadium with their own, you know, poser people all the time. So, but can I make a quick point? Actually, the Dallas fans down in Texas are some of the nicest people on the planet.
Been there, done that.
It's amazing. They're very knowledgeable, very polite and everything. I went to the Texas West Virginia game a couple years ago. We ran into a bunch of Cowboys fans down there. I think they were the most knowledgeable and nicest people I've ever run into in my entire life, which I think just proves the point that it's about their cockroach fans up here who don't have to.
Yeah, I think it's
the
the national Cowboy fans. I think you're right. You hit that, and I think that's everywhere. But because when I covered the Vikings, you would have, I would always joke David Putty from Seinfeld for Seinfeld fans. When they're that type of people that paint their face and they're obnoxious I think it's the outliers outside of Texas. I think you hit that on the head.
Let me say this, because I want to ask you guys if you agree with this or not, because I got some pushback on this when we were talking about it on our show. I have sensed, at least from some people who are in their 20s, it's not everybody for sure, but I sense that there was less animosity towards the Cowboys, or less hatred to the Cowboys for a specific kind of generation, because when they were growing up, the Cowboys stunk.
Right. Everyone diddly.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't good. So, but they watched Eli Manning, even though the Giants weren't amazing during that stretch, they watched him win a couple of championships. And they're also around, people who live in the northern suburbs and in New Jersey bump into Cowboys fans, I think, a lot more than they bump into Dallas fans. So I think for a certain portion of Birds fans who are like under 35 or 30, like, I think they look at the Giants and probably see that is as much of a rivalry game as anything. I've noticed on Crossing Broad that site traffic for Dallas week has not been as high in the last 2 years as it was in prior years. So I don't know if there's just not as much juice for it as there was.
No doubt. It was the stallback Cowboys that just dominated the Eagles for older fans for years, that built up their hatred. And that's why, when Wilbert Montgomery breaks through, that was such a seminal moment for Eagles fans, because they finally beat the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And then you had the Jimmy Johnson, Barry Switzer era.
Yeah.
Other than that, a lot of the younger fans have
Stallback is now a shrinking generation. The main rivalry is Jimmy Johnson starting Buddy Ryan against Jimmy Johnson and Kotite against Jimmy Johnson. That's when the true hatred for the Cowboys here in town was generated with fans who are in that key, like 10 years old. That's when you really become a fan, sometime between 8 and 10, and then you carry that with you for the rest of your life. That's when I think the Cowboy-Eagle rivalry was at its greatest.
And that Cowboys team was really, really good. But that's been a long time.
Right. So who do you hate? If you're 25 years old, what Cowboys did you despise growing up? Like Tashard Choice?
There's no reason to.
That's what I'm saying.
You're too young to hate Troy Aikman.
Yeah. Yeah, I do want to talk about this.
Troy Aikman is the lead announcer on Fox. He's not the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. If you're 25 years old, that's what you think of Troy Aikman as. Oh, Joe Buck's partner.
Yeah, and he's only he's the second least favorite partner on a two-man crew. So there you go.
Disrespect. It's been a big theme. Started with Micah Parsons, Chris Sims disrespecting Jalen Hurts, which is actually kind of true. This is a big week for the disrespecters, Kevin, because if Gardner Minshew can perform with this offense, and by the way, think about this. So the Eagles like to play 11 personnel. When Jalen Hurts is out there, 10 of those guys are Pro Bowl caliber players or alternates.
It's crazy.
With Gardner out there, it'll be 9. The supporting cast is very good. I don't think Micah Parsons disrespected Jalen Hurts. Chris Sims a little bit different. Where are you on the disrespect meter? Everybody's disrespecting everybody.
To me, the Micah Parsons thing seemed like I would categorize it as like a backhanded compliment.
Yes.
Because he wasn't trying to take. I think in saying how good the coaches were and how good the offensive line was and how good everybody else was, he kind of, marginalized what Hurts' achievements. He's been just as good as anybody, but he didn't come out and like crush the guy and kill the guy and say he can't play and he stinks or whatever. It was you had to read between the lines there and you had to do some parsing. I looked a lot at Von Miller's body language, because it was like, Parsons was looking at him and kind of like nodding, like you get what I'm saying. You play the same position, right? But a backhanded compliment is still backhanded, right? So I think that as much as these guys, for as much as Jalen Hurts is loved in that locker room, and as much as those guys have bought into him and supported him along the way, like just because he's not playing in this game, they're still going to go down there motivated and pissed off, right? Like we're not thinking that that's just going to disappear, correct?
How far do we have to get into the weeds to evaluate Gardner Minshew's performance here? The Eagles have been averaging almost 30 a game, 29 and change scoring per game. Jalen's quarterback rating is up near 110. If the Eagles win this game 21-20 and Gardner Minshew's quarterback rating is 90, the Jalen detractors get to go, see, they beat the Cowboys. They didn't even need Jalen Hurts. Don't we have to do a little bit more of a deep dive at the actual quarterback play and how the game plays to be able to compare what the Eagles are without Jalen Hurts and with Jalen Hurts?
It's kind of a moot point because those people are going to say it anyway, Jody, regardless of whether his QBR is 70 or 130. You know, I mean, like we live in the era of you just make up your own news and choose what to believe and choose what not to believe. You know, it's like
that's why all these stats suck.
Yeah, I mean,
there's one stat that you can grab a hold of and go, yeah, but look at this stat. And even though there are 9 or 10 that fly right in the face of the statement you're trying to make.
That's why I was rolling my eyes when Schatz came out the other day and he's like, well, Patrick Mahomes has a 1,500 DYR. I don't even know how to say it, you know? And then it's like, look, man, if you're
now DYAR, that's different than DBOA.
That's right. Yeah. But listen, here's the thing. If the formula that you're using to make your argument for Patrick Mahomes being the MVP also includes a top 5 of Jared Goff and Geno Smith, my guy Geno, then it's probably not the strongest argument to.
Yeah. Why don't like ESPN's Football Power Index gets a lot of hate, rightfully so, because they had Dallas number 1. Mm-hmm. And they stayed number 1 after blowing a 17-point lead over Jacksonville. Now, at some point, if you have this formula, you say, they probably shouldn't be number 1 this week. Do you tweak something, or you love your Borp so much you can't get away from Borp?
You know what it is? It's like to what Jody was saying earlier. It's like if you go too far on either end of the analytics versus eye test spectrum, you're doing yourself a disservice. If all you want to talk about is numbers, you're not watching the game. If all you want to do is watch the game, then you're not using any numbers to help inform and educate at the same time. You know, I think to the latter point, like people look at Jonathan Gannon's defense and they say, well, they're giving up some running plays. They're giving up some running plays. You got to go further. You got to go a step further. They don't give up explosive plays over the top. They don't give up big passing plays.
Which is the goal, by the way.
Yeah, the scheme is doing exactly what it was supposed to do. So I think like you got to live somewhere in the middle. There's a you know, probably the truth with everything here, guys, is that you got to be in the middle of everything, because there's just not in everything in these days. We're too far off the fringes, whether it's analytics, eye test, conservatives, Democrats, all this crapple. It's exhausting.
The Gannon debate is so friggin' easy. Sacks. That's all you need to know. Sacks. They get sacks. They're number 1 in the league in sacks. I don't care how the hell they get sacks. If they get sacks, you better believe he's getting the job done. And that's why those who are still questioning Gannon are just ludicrous and ridiculous. All right, we're running out of time here, KK, so I need you on the record. Gardner Minshew gets the start, certainly wants to do well for his Eagle brethren, but also for himself, for potential next year. Cowboys want to cling to that little hope that they can steal this division. How's it play out Saturday?
It's going to be a very close game. Neither team is going to cover. I think it's like a 27-24 or a 24-21 kind of game. But I think the Eagles show up motivated. I mean, look, Dallas has not exactly shown themselves to be world beaters in the last couple of weeks. They struggled with the Texans, and they're coming off a loss. So if you want to crown the Cowboys, you can crown them.
Yeah, go Denny Green. I like it.
Denny Green, the late Denny Green, right? But I think the Eagles can get it done. I think the Eagles can win like a 27-24, or like a 26-23 kind of game, something like that.
Okay. All right. KK, always a pleasure. We appreciate it whenever you come on. Make sure you check out Crossing Broad on a day-in, day-out basis. Thank you for jumping in with us today, buddy. Have a happy holiday.
You guys as well. Happy holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, Festivus for the rest of us.
Yes,
exactly.
Merry
Festivus. Kevin Kincaid from Crossing Broad here with us on Birds 365. All right, Mac and Mac coming back. We got Kincaid on the record. We got Kratz on the record. You need to hear from the JMs. John McMullen and Jody McDonald will have your Eagles Cowboys predictions next here on Birds 365.
post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Number 1, Jeff D'Ambrosio. Destination Downingtown is rolling back prices for December to remember. For a limited time, you can own, not lease, brand new 2023 Jeep Wranglers for only $30,995 or $339 per month. New Ram starting at only $30,995 or new Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cabs $189 per month. Zero down can deliver. Get the price you want, the selection you need, and the VIP treatment you deserve. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Big Finish Sales Event.
Did you know taxes could be your biggest expense during retirement? Are most of your assets in tax-deferred accounts like IRAs and 401ks? Taxes are historically low today, but we're facing significant headwinds in the future. Do you have a plan? The Thrive Financial team has more than 100 years of experience helping people across the Delaware Valley with forward-looking tax planning. Learn how to shift your money from forever tax to no or low tax accounts. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
Football Friday here on Birds 365. We do have that much right. It's kind of a wacky week because of the holiday, and the NFL is going to play that many Saturday games. Only 3 left for Sunday, which is actually Christmas. So believe me, if you're confused, to join Mac and Mac, because we're kind of off on the whole schedule thing too. John was ready to make a pick on the game yesterday.
Yeah, man.
No.
Yeah,
Wait, hold it for the roll,
and by
big
the
guy.
way, the funny thing about that is I verbalized everything. It was one day, and I still couldn't compute that it wasn't, because I'm so used to only doing 1 hour of the show on Fridays, because I got to get down to the NovaCare complex. So, yeah, thanks for saving me there.
Not a problem. So we have to officially get on the record. For those of you just tuning in, Ed Kratz took the Cowboys in a game to be played in the 20s, close, hangs in the balance. 27-20 was the Kratz prediction, if I'm remembering correctly. I think
I believe so.
27-20. Kevin Kincaid, who was just on with us, said he thinks the Eagles will find a way to win. Again, very competitive game, not a major offensive blow, not a defensive struggle. Then somewhere in the 20s again. Kincaid said 27-20. He's got basically our two guests we had on had the same score. Kincaid had the Eagles winning. Kratz had the Cowboys winning. John McMullen, how do you see this one playing out between the boys and the Birds?
I'm with them both. I think it's going to be a close, competitive game by no stretch. Do I think Gardner Minshew is going to be overcome by the moment? He's he's the big Lebowski to begin with. It's all dude and man, and everything's cool. He's a cool cucumber to just in general. So I'm not worried about that at all. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think the Cowboys, I think Jalen Hurts shifts it and the Cowboys become the better team. It's the home game. I think the Cowboys win a close game, a really close game, something like 23-21.
Did you say 23-21?
Yes.
I have my score written down here. Can I show it to you on my thing? Let me make sure I got this right. You can get it. I write small to begin with, but we'll see if that's your. Can you?
I'm getting it at 23-21. How about that? Great minds think alike.
21. Dallas. That's the number I wrote down. That's the final score I wrote down. And I'll go one step further. It will be a late Brett Maher field goal.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the Cowboys running out to a big lead and the Eagles chasing all day. It's not going to be the Eagles blow a big lead. Oh, my God, they're up by 2 touchdowns. They pissed away. No, I think it'll be back and forth. I think it'll be close the whole day. I think the Eagles will be leading late. Unlike the last time when they played, when the Cowboys scored in the fourth quarter early on, and then the Eagles just had this, we're going to spit in your eye type drive where they just ran it down the Cowboys' throat. I think the first 10 plays of that drive were running plays, and they just said, oh, yeah, we're going to dictate terms here. And they stuck in the end zone. The game was over and done with. This time, they won't be able to do that. They'll be protecting the lead. Gardner Minshew will not be able to do the same thing a Jalen Hurts-led team did. So they're going to have to give the Cowboys the ball back for one last shot. And, yeah, I think Brett Maher is going to kick it.
And it might be a 55-yarder or something like that. Big leg indoors.
He's got the capabilities doing that. He's one of the better kickers in the NFL. So McMullen and McDonald, damn it, we got the exact same outcome, the exact same score.
Yeah, we didn't we didn't tell each other what our predictions
were. I had no
were.
bloody idea you were going there. I couldn't, but I thought maybe you'd pick the Cowboys same as me. All right, maybe you pick the Cowboys in a close game the same as me. The exact same score as me. What the hell, McMullen? Yeah. I hope we're both wrong, because we'll be talking about it come Monday.
I'm selfish. I hope I'm right. I'm selfish.
You do? All right, good for you. I'll take the crap for all of us if we're wrong. JM, have a good holiday. I know you're going to be on the channel here many times tomorrow, but I'm looking forward to jumping on with you Monday after the game.
Happy holidays to everybody and all the listeners, and thanks for everybody. Tough day, but we got well over cracked 400 live viewers, so happy holidays to everyone.
And we will be back here on Monday. Thanks to everybody at JAKIB Media, specifically Tone, doing an outstanding job producing. Happy holiday, everybody. Good luck to the Eagles against the Cowboys. McMullen and McDonald will be back on Monday to talk about it in 2 days, that is.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.